said a putting contest week.
Oh man, Jon Rahm is upset. Now I know that video was a little hard to hear, so if you didn't quite get all of it, and I put the beeps in there as well because I didn't want the language on there, basically Jon Rahm is not happy with the conditions last week at the Amex. What Rahm was saying essentially was that he was upset that he felt the fairway and the rough were kind of a little too similar, and essentially missing the fairway meant nothing, and it basically turned it into a putting contest. Jon Rahm would then ask later in the week at the podium, and he also had this to say, which was, I mean, we're on the PGA Tour, we're the best golfers on the planet, and we're playing a golf course where missing the fairway means absolutely nothing. There was a time when missing the fairway by an inch was worse than missing the fairway by 20 yards. That to me is a mistake. I don't know what else to say. So Rahm was upset. He felt maybe the course was a little bit too easy, and I'm going to be honest with you, I completely agree with him, but to more than that in a second, I'm going to show you a couple of examples of what he was talking about, just so if you didn't happen to see the highlights or you didn't get to see the round last week, what he's talking about. So this first example here, you will see this is someone actually hitting from the first cut, but you can actually see the rough right over here as well. It's all dyed out, but if you look, I mean, it's very difficult to tell the difference in length. I mean, to be honest with you, most of this rough and first cut could probably pass for fairway on most public golf courses. I know I've played at a few in my time that definitely had some fairway grass that looked like that, but essentially, you know, that dead grass goes all the way out of bounds, so essentially if you miss 20 yards, 30 yards, you know, left, right, you're still hitting out of what feels like a fair cut, or heck, like I said, even a fairway in most public golf courses. Here's a second example right here as well. As you can see, this is actually near the green. It's just a slight miss right, but again, this actually probably helps you out a little bit. It's going to fluff your ball up a little bit, make sure you can get a really good hit with a wedge. This is actually a scenario where you know, and everyone's going to have their own opinion of this, but I actually personally think that this would help you from chipping off the green, just to make sure you can get a nice good hit and you don't, you know, fat it or duff it or even blade it. So, you know, this shot ended up being really close, as you can see there. So I can understand why Jon Rahm is upset, and that's really what he was upset about, was he felt it basically turned it into a putting contest instead of being about, you know, ball striking and making sure you're accurate. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that I'm going to give you a hot take. I completely agree with him, and I've been on this for years. I think the PGA has made a lot of mistakes with situations like this. You know, back when Tiger was in, you know, they called it tiger proofing. You know, they were making the courses so much longer and longer and longer to try to, you know, get it to where he wasn't just reaching the green in 2 on par 5 so easily, or, you know, hitting the green on par 4s. But I don't think this is, back then I didn't think it was the right move, and I think now it's getting even worse, because now we're talking about getting a golf ball that goes less distance, we're shortening the drivers, we're placing handicaps on the best players in the world who have worked their entire lives for this. It's a huge mistake, and I think anyone who, how do I say this nicely, has a high IQ over the mid-range would be able to see that putting a handicap on some of the best players in the world probably isn't going to go over very well with them, and that's why a lot of guys are leaving for that new golf league that's coming in. So it's not a good look for the PGA, and I've always thought that there's different ways they need to go about it. But real quick before we get into that, why do I feel this way? Well, first of all, like I just said a minute ago, I feel like, you know, a lot of the time the first cut in the rough at a lot of these courses, they feel like fairway at, you know, your normal public course. And I'm sorry, but these guys are the best golfers in the world. I mean, they should want to have to hit the fairway, and you have guys like Bryson DeChambeau. There's nothing that makes me more upset than watching Bryson DeChambeau swing out of his shoes, miss 120 yards right into the stands, and then he's hitting off rough this deep. And then he ends up taking out a 3 or 4 iron, and then he swings as hard as he can and hits the green and ends up with a birdie. That shouldn't happen, in my opinion. It just shouldn't. I mean, if you're missing the fairway by that amount, regardless of how good of a recovery player you are, it should be difficult to get that ball back in the fairway, or it should be difficult to get it out of that rough. It shouldn't be so easy that you can just use a 3 iron right out of the rough and just get it on the green, but I see it every single week. It seems like the whole idea of the rough and the sand has just kind of gone away. You know, the penalty areas, they're so focused on making them longer and longer that they forgot about all the other options they have. You know, plant more trees, get more sand in there, get more water in there. I mean, there's a lot of options. Let's look at the scores for a second here. So just from the last couple of scores, as you can see here, at the American Express, the winner ended up with 23 under. That was Swafford, of course. And then, you know, before that we had the Sony Open, which was 23 under. It was a tie. And then we go back again to the Tournament of Champions, 34 under, 33 under, 32 under. I mean, that's pretty crazy. Then you go back to the Hero World Challenge, 18 under. So that's just a small sample size, but it does bring my point about, which is, you know, to me, I get it. These guys are the best in the world, and I get it that birdie should be a little bit easier for them. But think about it. When you go out with your friends or when you go out and play golf and you get a birdie, think about how exciting that birdie is. You know, you talk about it, you know, at the end of the hole, you talk about it the next hole, and then even when you come back next week, sometimes you're like, remember when I birdied this last week? It's exciting, and birdies should be exciting. Birdies for professionals are not exciting. It's what's expected. I can't tell you how many times I see a guy birdie a hole, gives a quick wave, not even a smile on his face. He picks the ball up and moves on because he knows that's just what has to be done to win. I think that's, you know, honestly not a good look for the PGA. I mean, they should make the courses a little bit more difficult to where birdies should still feel exciting. You know, when I'm watching someone get a birdie, I want it to be exciting. I want it to be, you know, oh, Victor Hovland got a birdie. Oh, I'm so excited. And I get out, you know, but it isn't that way. I mean, the only time I ever really get excited is probably on an eagle, which is pretty rare. Maybe once every couple rounds, you know, your favorite golfer will get one. Maybe once every couple weeks if he's playing every week. There just isn't that excitement. That's because birdies are expected. In my honest opinion, this is a hot take, but I don't think guys should be getting up to 30 under in 4 rounds. That means it's pretty easy. I mean, if you're averaging a birdie every 2 or 3 holes, it's just too easy of a course for you. And I think that the PGA is so afraid of seeing guys go over and, you know, being +3, +4, +5, that this is the end result we get because of that. And I just don't agree with it. What's wrong with seeing a guy be 7, 8 over? It happens. It's golf. It's very difficult. I want to see guys to where, you know, I want to see courses to where, you know, getting 8 under in 4 rounds is amazing. You know, oh, I can't believe they got 8 birdies in 4 rounds. You know, that's such a tough course with all the penalties and all the... But unfortunately, it's just not that way. A lot of these courses are so easy that guys are birdie, 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 birdie in a row. I mean, you see some pros, they'll go on a 7 or 8 holes in a row birdie streak. And I just think that makes the game a little too easy. And I think, you know, as a spectator, I would like to see it a lot more difficult. So how would I make it more difficult personally? Well, I'll tell you. So this is a really big hot take. But for me, don't be afraid to get wacky with it. Listen, I want to see a lot more water. I want to see sand on both sides. I want, you know, the rough to be rough. I want it to be really rough. I want it to be difficult to get out of. If you miss your shot, I want you to be punished for it. Because I'll be honest with you, it's like that for me, and it's probably like that for you too. If you go to your local course, like I said, I go to a course where they're pretty short-staffed, and honestly, they don't have, you know, a lot of guys to mow the grass half the time. So if I'm hitting out of rough, sometimes it's that thick. And if I can, these professionals can. They spend 8 hours a day doing this. There's no reason they wouldn't be able to hit out of a cut like that. You know, make the sand traps more apparent. I played a course where there's 96 sand traps, and it's just a local public course. Same thing with these. Make more sand traps. Don't be afraid to add some water. More island greens. You know, more long, deep, hard to get out of bunkers. Really get crazy with it because, truthfully, again, these guys are professionals. It's like Rahm said, they're the best in the world. They should be able to hit these shots, and if they don't, they should be punished for it a little bit. And it's really frustrating now to watch, like I said before, these guys like Bryson DeChambeau and these really big, long hitters come up here and just swing as hard as they can and not really be punished for it. They spray the ball all over the course left and right, and they're still able to get birdies, they're still able to get tap-in pars, and that really shouldn't be the way it is. If you hit your shot 80 yards offline, you should be fighting for a long par save. There should never be an instant where you have a birdie chance and you still tap in, or it should be very rare. Guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? You know, what do you think they need to do to change how the golf courses are made? Do they need to make them longer? Or do they just need to make them tighter? Or do they need to get kind of wacky with them? Let me know what you think. As always, keep watching to keep saving and keep learning.